5 consequences of unrealistic expectations. Without even realizing it, we may be setting unrealistic expectations for ourselves and others. They may not have been unrealistic at the time, but circumstances constantly change, and what was realistic at one moment may not be the following day. When we stick to unrealistic expectations, there are a number of consequences that follow. Today, we're going to tell you exactly what those consequences are. Unrealistic expectations breed frustration and disappointment. Setting unrealistic expectations for yourself and others leads to disappointment and frustration on both ends. On one end, the person who created the expectation will feel disappointed and frustrated when the other party fails to complete what was expected. On the other end, the person completing the expectation will have the same feelings with themselves and possibly with the other person for expecting too much. Unrealistic expectations lower self-confidence. Trying to live up to an expectation that is unrealistic can also mess with a person's self-confidence. When a person feels like they're failing at something, it's extremely easy to attack our self-confidence and self-esteem. When our self-confidence takes a hit, it becomes exceedingly more difficult to complete tasks and live up to the expectations set for us. Unrealistic expectations lead to burnout. Another common consequence of unrealistic expectations is experiencing burnout. If we're constantly trying to reach high expectations, eventually we're going to feel numb to the task at hand. That numbness turns into burnout, which then causes a variety of other issues. These issues may include mental health struggles and physical health issues due to excessive stress. To avoid burnout, it's essential to take breaks when needed and to know your limits in terms of what you're capable of and willing to do. Unrealistic expectations result in rushed jobs. When we set unrealistic expectations for ourselves and others, it may cause whoever is responsible to rush in order to meet a deadline. While reaching a deadline is ideal, this sometimes means quality is sacrificed as not much time can be spent on the assignment. Instead, it's important to create expectations that are doable for whoever is tasked with taking them on. In this case, it's always best to allow ample time for someone to complete a certain task for you to avoid being stuck with a rushed and half-done task when a deadline rolls around. Unrealistic expectations contribute to overwhelm. Unrealistic expectations are a common cause of overwhelm in the person responsible for living up to them. If an expectation is set too high, that person may spend all of their time and energy focusing on that one expectation while ignoring other obligations. By ignoring these obligations, they mount up and that person is left with a huge pile of responsibilities after completing the high expectation. As a result, overwhelm kicks in and stress levels rise. Conclusion. Although high expectations aren't necessarily unrealistic, it's always important to adapt your expectations to an individual person's skill level and capability. This way, you can set reasonable expectations that a person can complete in a timely manner without sacrificing the quality of the task. In turn, you get a reliable comrade and they gain a sense of trust from you for the future. 5 signs you're living for someone other than yourself. If you've ever felt out of place in your own life, and like where you aren't where you want to be, you're probably living your life for someone else. While we never intentionally set out to live for others, it can happen without us even knowing. Today, we'll tell you 5 signs you're living your life for someone other than yourself. You suffer from an inability to tell others no. The most prominent sign you're living for someone else is when you lack the ability to tell others no. Maybe you constantly feel like you're doing favors for others and they don't seem to be returning the favor. When you're spending all your time focusing on other people, you don't give yourself any time to do the things you enjoy. You may not even know what you enjoy in more serious cases because you've always spent all your time and energy on other people. You don't take time for yourself. Similar to our previous point, people who live entirely for others often struggle with taking time for themselves. Again, when you focus all of your time and energy on another person, that doesn't leave you much room for self-care. For the sake of your own mental health and well-being, it's vital that you carve out specific time to focus on yourself and nobody else. You perpetually stay in your comfort zone. Another common sign you're living for someone other than yourself is if you refuse to venture outside of your comfort zone. If you don't take risks and try new things, you'll never grow and discover new hobbies or interests. Venturing outside of your comfort zone leads you to build confidence and resilience. While it may be easier to stick with what feels safe, it's impossible to experience growth by remaining stagnant and in one place. You numb yourself through addiction. People who live for someone other than themselves often begin to numb their negative thoughts and feelings through addictive substances. If you're experiencing an addiction that stems from feeling a lack of purpose, it may be a sign that you need to start focusing inward. Addiction is a disease that can quickly spiral out of control. For the sake of your health, and with concern for loved ones around you, seeking help for your addiction is the best way to help you see brighter days. You aren't making meaningful connections with others. If you live for someone other than yourself, it's very possible that you wear a mask when out in public. While your friends and acquaintances may see one version of you, you may feel the connection is superficial and unable to go anywhere. To create a meaningful relationship, you must have mutual trust, respect, and compatibility. However, you must have these things within yourself before you can have them with others. Each sign of living for others rather than yourself stems from one thing: disconnecting your mind and your body from your soul. Learning to live for yourself can be incredibly difficult. However, the hard work is worth it when you see you're experiencing things you truly enjoy with people whom you've created meaningful relationships with. Conclusion: if any of these 5 signs apply to you, you may be feeling a crisis coming on. Don't worry though. By carving out specific times to focus on yourself and allowing yourself to say no to others, you put your body and mind in the right place to grow and live for yourself instead. 5 tips to figure out what makes you happy. True happiness is something we all strive to find, and for some it can take a long time to discover. It also takes a lot of patience to weed out surface-level happiness from what makes us feel true happiness. This guide will tell you 5 things that can help you figure out what makes you happy. Give yourself time and space to figure everything out. True happiness isn't something that comes to us instantly. Some people can take years before they find out what makes them happy. Before seeking true happiness, you must give yourself permission to take the time and space needed to figure yourself out. Allowing yourself this time and environment to admit when something makes you unhappy gives you the opportunity to let whatever it is go. Remember to periodically remind yourself that this process isn't instant, and achieving true happiness comes from a process of trial and error. Use a mood tracker to monitor your feelings. Using a mood tracker to monitor your feelings can help gauge what activities and tasks make you happy, and which ones are harming your psyche. Some people choose to track their moods through creative trackers in bullet journals. However, if bullet journaling doesn't fit your fancy, several mood tracker apps are available for both iOS and Android systems. You can also achieve this by simply doing a self-assessment at the end of each day. Limit contact with negative influences. Limiting contact with negative influences helps ensure you stay in the right headspace while pursuing true happiness. Understandably, these negative influences may be people you have difficulty cutting off completely, like a parent or a sibling. In these cases, learn to set healthy boundaries with these people and surround yourself with positive influences more often to offset the negative energy. Try different methods and activities. Figuring out what makes you happy is a trial and error process. Because of that, you may find several activities and methods that don't work before landing on something that does. For example, you may have tried the method of waking up an hour earlier than usual. If you do this for a week, and you find you're sluggish halfway through the day, it may be time to try an alternative method or activity. When you're constantly running into things that don't work, try not to feel too discouraged. Remind yourself that this journey can take a long time, but the end result will be worth it. Allow yourself to feel every emotion. Not all emotions are positive, and it's easy to push the negative emotions out of the way to avoid dealing with them. Although it's easier to put up blinders, it's an important part of the journey to feel and experience every emotion. For example, feeling anger or anxiety when experiencing something likely means it's something that won't make you happy. With that said, it's important to analyze these emotions and decide why you're feeling them. If you're feeling these emotions because of an outside influence, consider eliminating the outside influence first. By giving yourself grace and letting every emotion be processed fully, you equip yourself with better knowledge going forward in the journey. Conclusion. To summarize it all, figuring out what makes you happy takes time and commitment. It requires you to feel everything as it comes, and it requires patience when it seems like nothing works. By giving yourself the right space and mindset to start your journey and limiting contact with negative influences, you put yourself on the path to figuring out what makes you happy. 5 ways to increase contentment by managing stress. Although we all want to feel contentment, the hustle and bustle of everyday life leaves us with a lot of unintended stress. When this happens, it can be difficult to enjoy things without feeling like you're not being productive. It can also feel like the feelings that come along with stress will never go away. Today, we're going to cover 5 great ways to increase contentment by managing your stress levels. Take social media and news breaks. How many times have you found yourself mindlessly scrolling through social media on your phone without even realizing that you pulled it out in the first place? We've all been guilty of this at one time or another. While it may seem like mindless scrolling, this activity can quickly become stress-inducing when you see distressing news or others with seemingly perfect lives on your feed. Get adequate sleep at night. Another helpful stress management technique is to get an adequate amount of sleep for your age. Most typical adults need anywhere from 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. When you get too little or too much sleep, your body struggles to maintain normal levels of different hormones during the following day. This can lead to increased irritability and fatigue, 2 things that add to stress levels. Take advantage of nice weather. When you open the blinds and find the sun is shining and the temperatures are mild, you might consider hanging out the hammock outside or going for a nice walk. While the sun is more commonly known for the UV rays it emits, it's also an excellent source of natural vitamin D. Vitamin D is something our body can't produce on its own. Because of that, it relies on outside sources, like the sun, to help produce the vitamin within our body. Carve out time for self-care. Self-care is an excellent tool for winding down after a long and stressful day at work or in general. While one normally associates self-care with an elaborate spa day, self-care can be something as simple as taking a quick shower while your comforter runs through the dryer. Once you've finished the shower, snuggle up in bed with a warm comforter and you may instantly start to feel better. Self-care looks different for everyone. While some people want the entire spa experience, others may go with simpler tools to satisfy their needs. Regardless of what you choose to do, engaging in an activity that makes you happy will do wonders in lowering your stress levels. Establish a regular exercise routine. As daunting as exercise may be for many people, this activity releases endorphins like dopamine and serotonin. These brain chemicals are responsible for making you feel pleasure and happiness. They also work diligently to lower your cortisol levels, which is the main chemical in your brain that triggers stress and anxiety. This doesn't need to be a full, high-intensity workout circuit. Instead, it can be something as simple as a walk or a gentle yoga practice. Conclusion. Managing your stress levels is the key to creating a life full of contentment. With an absence of stress, you allow your body and mind more room for positive emotions and feelings. When you feel your stress levels rising, take a minute and breathe. Complete a self-care activity or initiate a social media break if you have time. Maintaining a healthy lifestyle and getting enough sleep at night will do wonders in lowering stress and increasing contentment. 5 yoga poses to aid contentment. Yoga is an excellent tool for reconnecting your mind and body. and does wonders when a person is looking for contentment. Regular yoga practice helps release endorphins into the brain to help one feel more relaxed and at peace after each cycle. With that said, specific yoga poses work better than others in terms of aiding contentment. Today, we'll tell you about 5 yoga poses that aid in contentment. Butterfly pose. The butterfly pose is a common pose to begin and end a yoga practice with. This pose takes little time and energy to complete and helps a person get into the correct headspace to complete a contentment yoga practice. It also helps create a safe place away from negative thoughts and feelings to keep your mind and body grounded together. To properly complete the butterfly pose, sit on your bottom and bring the soles of your feet together. Bring your feet as close to your pelvis as is comfortable and close your eyes. Take a few soothing deep breaths and sit with your head over your heart and your heart over your pelvis. Downward dog. Downward dog is a staple in any yoga cycle and is excellent in aiding circulation throughout the body. While it is not easy to get the perfect downward dog, plenty of variations offer the same benefits. The position your body is in while in downward dog sends blood through all of your nerves and blood vessels, which then aids in reducing levels of stress within your body. To complete downward dog, begin in table pose with your knees shoulder width apart. Slowly lift your legs and stick your butt in the air. Your arms and legs should be straightened entirely and you should feel a good stretch in the hind muscles of your legs. Standing forward bend. Standing forward bend has similar benefits to the downward dog position. When your body is in standing forward bend, circulation is improved throughout your entire body. This then allows your brain to release endorphins to reduce any stress levels you may be feeling. Standing forward bend is a common position in sun salutations. To correctly do a standing forward bend, stand with your feet planted firmly on the floor. Slowly lower your upper body down to the floor and touch your toes. In some variations, you may choose to grab your elbows and gently sway your body. Happy baby. Happy baby may feel like a silly pose, but this pose is excellent for opening up your hips and doing wonders for your mental and emotional health. This is considered a very gentle pose and is an excellent stretch for your pelvis. Many people also enjoy it as it gives a slight back massage as you rock from side to side. To complete the happy baby pose, lay flat on your back. Grab the inside of each foot with your corresponding hand and pull them towards you. Gently roll side to side. You should feel a good stretch in your hips and pelvis. Corpse pose. The corpse pose is a common pose used at the end of a yoga practice. The purpose of the corpse pose is to relax your body completely at the end of a practice so you can feel the full effects of the poses done throughout the cycle. This pose is effortless to complete and the ultimate yoga pose for contentment when performed at the end of a cycle. Simply lay flat on your back with your arms and legs comfortably straightened out to perform the corpse pose. Some people choose to place their hands on their bellies to feel their breaths in and out. Conclusion. Yoga is an excellent tool for trying to reach contentment. Not only does it give your body an excellent stretch, but it also puts you in the right mindset for reaching contentment on and off the yoga mat. 6 questions to ask yourself to see if your expectations are realistic. Setting expectations for ourselves can sometimes get out of hand and unrealistic expectations begin to seep in. When we're working with unrealistic expectations, stress levels may rise and our feelings of self-worth may sink. When setting expectations, it's important to ask yourself questions about them to ensure they're realistic. Today, we'll tell you the 6 questions you need to ask yourself to see if your expectations are realistic. Okay, the first question to ask is, am I creating a regular routine? It's much easier to set realistic regulation when you're used to a specific routine. This way, the structure from your routine allows you structure in what you expect to do each day. For example, if you regularly work from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., You can use that time frame to gauge what you can be expected to complete outside of work responsibilities in the rest of the time you're given each day. What do I need to make each day successful? When you wake up each morning, try to ask yourself what you need to do to make the day feel like a success. Doing this forces you to explicitly set your goals for the day and decide how you can achieve them. Doing this first thing in the morning also allows you more time to gauge how realistic those daily goals are. Beginning your day with a productive mindset will also help you feel more accomplished at the end of the day. Have I allowed myself to take a break and regroup? If you're starting to feel overwhelmed by your goals and expectations, take a second to ask yourself if you've taken proper time to step back and reassess your goals for the day. If you haven't, take a short break from what you're doing and then think about whether or not you just needed a break or if the expectation in question is too much for the day. In most cases, you'll find that taking adequate breaks throughout your day can actually increase your productivity. What are my limits? Before setting any expectation for yourself, it's important to know what your limits are. If you're aware of your limits and you respect the limits you set for yourself, you're far less likely to create an unrealistic expectation. Setting limits for yourself can look like a lot of things. For some, it may mean a specific amount of time helping others with tasks or problems. For others, it may be more focused on work deadlines and timing. What do I currently have on my plate? An important aspect of setting realistic expectations is assessing what you already have on your plate. If your plate is already full of work projects and other obligations, you probably won't want to create additional expectations to get other work done. Once you clear your responsibility plate a little, you can reassess your expectation and tweak it as necessary. Why do I have this specific expectation? After creating an expectation, ask yourself why you've made it. If you did it for yourself, then it's probably realistic. However, creating an expectation based on what others expect of you can veer dangerously close to unrealistic expectations if you aren't careful. To prevent this from happening with others, make sure you're setting healthy boundaries where necessary and knowing when to tell others no. Conclusion. Setting realistic expectations for yourself is an integral part of living a well-balanced life. Keeping your expectations within reason lets you avoid burning yourself out and potentially disappointing yourself and others. Remember to ask yourself these questions periodically to avoid unintentionally creating unrealistic expectations. Living a life free of stress and worry is a dream for many. But what if we told you that dream could be a reality? It isn't impossible to live a life of contentment. All you need to do is learn to be in the moment and let go of negativity. This guide will tell you exactly how to increase contentment in your life. Let go of what you can't control. Anxiety and worry are common emotions when intense situations are happening. We can harness those emotions and turn them into something good when we learn to live with the things we can't control and how to control the things we can. If something no longer serves you and you find it's only making you feel worse, permit yourself to let it go. When we let go of the things we can't control, we can focus more of our energy on the things that we can control. This newfound focus allows us to take back control of our lives, resulting in a more content lifestyle. Veer away from materialism. Many of us struggle with accumulating too much stuff. While purchasing something new may feel good at the moment, buyer's remorse typically kicks in pretty quickly. As a result, we end up feeling like we've wasted time and money on an item we don't actually need. This doesn't mean you need to adopt a fully minimalist lifestyle, though. Instead, take a few minutes before clicking the Buy Now button and decide if the item is something you actually need. If you find you can't list any reason beyond, "I want it," then it's likely you don't need it. If you have trouble kicking your shopping habit, consider making lists instead of adding them to your cart. This way, you can refer back to it later or send the list to someone who wants to buy you a gift. Practice routine gratitude. If you want to feel more contented with your life, practicing routine gratitude helps. This practice can take a number of forms. While some people choose to express gratitude through journaling, others may prefer making a mental list. Gratitude can also be expressed in the form of doing nice things for others. Whatever your choice of practicing gratitude, know that in doing so, you're opening yourself up to a life full of contentment. Show your appreciation for others. People who live content lives are usually well loved by those who know them. A lack of contentment in your own life may stem from a lack of communication or appreciation with others. If you feel you need to increase contentment in your life, consider taking a day to talk with your loved ones. Make or give them a gift if that fits your fancy. When you show your appreciation for others, you increase your own contentment as well as that of the people around you. Get in touch with your emotions. You can't truly feel contentment if you're pushing negative emotions deep into your psyche. Instead, you should allow yourself to feel every feeling you have. As much as we don't want to feel negative emotions like grief or anger, it's important to let these emotions out to keep them from bottling up. If you let negative emotions bottle up, they'll eat you from the inside. Outwardly and healthily expressing these emotions will ensure you save space for increased contentment afterwards. Find your Zen. Perhaps the most important step to increasing contentment in your life is also the final one. The best way to increase contentment is to find out what makes you feel completely present. Finding your Zen can look like a lot of things. For some people, this may be grounding in nature or spending some time outside. For others, Zen can be found in the gym or in a nook in a library. Whatever your space is, it's important to find it and utilize it if you want to become more satisfied by giving to others. If you're struggling with a lack of satisfaction in your life, you may want to consider giving to others. Sometimes that hole we feel when we're unsatisfied comes from a feeling of selfishness, even if we don't realize it. That feeling becomes more apparent when we do things for others without expecting anything in return. Today we're going to talk about why you should give to others and how to give when you aren't sure what to do. Why you should give to others. There are a variety of reasons why you should give to others, especially when you feel like you're unsatisfied with life. Regardless of how you choose to give to another person or being, the feeling one gets after doing so is unmatched. Here are some more reasons why you should give to others when you aren't feeling satisfied in life. There's always someone in need. Whether that's a neighbour or an unhoused person or a shelter animal, someone always has it worse than you. Organisations are always in need of help. Volunteer organisations and non-profits always need help, both physically and financially. There are plenty of opportunities to fit your skill set. Whether you excel in interpersonal skills or you're an accounting whiz, you should have no trouble finding an opportunity. Some organisations give volunteers and donors special perks. You may be invited to the organisation's future events by volunteering your time and money. Ways to give to others. If you've decided you want to give to others in some way, you may be struggling with finding ways to give. Giving to others doesn't always mean you have to donate your time. You can also volunteer for someone or something via your money or by donating any belongings you no longer use. Regardless of what you do, you'll likely achieve that same feeling of satisfaction after doing so. Volunteer your time. If you find yourself with plenty of time on your hands, consider finding an organisation with similar values as yours. After finding a specific organisation, reach out to them for any volunteer opportunities currently listed. For an animal shelter, this may be a person to walk dogs or sit with cats. For a homeless shelter, this may be packing lunches for outreach initiatives later on that week. Because non-profit organisations and charities are made to help the public, there's a constant need for volunteers. Volunteer your money. If time isn't on your side but you still want to help, consider making annual donations to a specific cause that means a lot to you. Even if you aren't rolling in money, modest donations can go a long way in helping others within your own community. In some cases, donating money to an organisation could give you special perks, like event invites or branded items from the organisation itself. Volunteer your items. If spring has rolled around and you're feeling inclined to clear out the clutter in your home, consider donating any personal belongings you no longer use to various organisations. Old towels can be donated to your local animal shelter, for example, and old clothing still in good condition may be accepted by a local homeless shelter. Conclusion. Regardless of how you choose to give to others, It doesn't need to be elaborate. Giving to others can be something as simple as helping your neighbour with a task they struggle with. Nobody is asking you to become Robin Hood, but taking a little piece of yourself and giving it to other people can do wonders in creating a more satisfactory life. To manage the expectations of others. The expectations of others for you can easily feel overwhelming when you aren't well versed in setting boundaries or speaking up for yourself. However, learning to say no and making your priorities clear are important for managing these expectations. This guide will tell you how to manage the expectations of others. Set healthy boundaries with those in your life. Before creating boundaries with others in your life, you need to create boundaries for yourself. You need to take the time to decide what you're capable of and what you're willing to do for yourself and for others. Once you've established healthy boundaries within yourself, you can do so with others. Your boundaries may look different regarding different aspects of your life. For example, a co-worker's boundary is going to look far different from a boundary with a parent or a significant other. Depending on the relationship you have with the person, both of you need to set appropriate boundaries in order to function harmoniously. Make your priorities clear. When managing the expectations of others, it's also important to know what your priorities are and how to make them clear. When you're well versed in your personal priorities, it's easier to establish boundaries with another person. Setting priorities also allows the other party to create expectations that fit well within your priorities. To create priorities, take a few minutes to plan how you intend to spend your time. For example, priorities at work may involve planning a certain time slot for desk work, co-worker collaboration, and breaks to eat and breathe for a little while. When your co-workers and superiors are aware of your priorities, they can create expectations during allotted times. Learn how to say no. No is a very powerful statement, and many people are afraid to use it for fear of offending someone or hurting someone's feelings. However, gaining the ability to say no to others is a huge step in setting healthy boundaries. Saying no to another person will look different depending on your relationship with that individual. For example, saying no to a co-worker when they ask you for help on a project shows them that you aren't able to give the project proper attention. You may be too busy with other assignments or simply don't want to help. Either way, it's important to remember that no is a complete sentence. You don't owe anyone else an explanation behind your answer. Be open to negotiation. Be prepared to negotiate whether you expect something from someone or the other way around. If you feel you need more time to complete something that someone has asked of you, try to negotiate a longer deadline. For example, if you're responsible for ordering a cake for a special occasion honouring a friend, try to negotiate the time frame you have in order to give yourself and the cake maker time to create a quality piece. Promise less than you deliver. When you promise less than you actually give to someone, you set them up with low expectations. When a person has low expectations for an outcome, they're far less likely to be disappointed at the end. If you already have several other priorities to worry about, make that known. This way, the other person can make expectations that are appropriate based on your availability. For example, let's say you're already taking on 3 big projects at work. If a co-worker or a boss asks if you can complete a smaller assignment for them, you can say that you have other bigger projects and you may be able to help, but they shouldn't give you a strict due date. In this case, you could complete the assignment in a timely manner anyway, and the other party won't be disappointed. Expectations of others for you can easily feel overwhelming when you aren't well versed in setting boundaries or speaking up for yourself. However, learning to say no and making your priorities clear are important for managing these expectations. This guide will tell you how to manage the expectations of others. Set healthy boundaries with those in your life. Before creating boundaries with others in your life, you need to create boundaries for yourself. You need to take the time to decide what you're capable of and what you're willing to do for yourself and for others. Once you've established healthy boundaries within yourself, you can do so with others. Your boundaries may look different regarding different aspects of your life. For example, a co-worker's boundary is going to look far different from a boundary with a parent or a significant other. Depending on the relationship you have with the person, both of you need to set appropriate boundaries in order to function harmoniously. Make your priorities clear. When managing the expectations of others, it's also important to know what your priorities are and how to make them clear. When you're well versed in your personal priorities, it's easier to establish boundaries with another person. Setting priorities also allows the other party to create expectations that fit well within your priorities. To create priorities, take a few minutes to plan how you intend to spend your time. For example, priorities at work may involve planning a certain time slot for desk work, co-worker collaboration, and breaks to eat and breathe for a little while. When your co-workers and superiors are aware of your priorities, they can create expectations during allotted times. Learn how to say no. No is a very powerful statement, and many people are afraid to use it for fear of offending someone or hurting someone's feelings. However, gaining the ability to say no to others is a huge step in setting healthy boundaries. Saying no to another person will look different depending on your relationship with that individual. For example, saying no to a co-worker when they ask you for help on a project shows them that you aren't able to give the project proper attention. You may be too busy with other assignments or simply don't want to help. Either way, it's important to remember that no is a complete sentence. You don't owe anyone else an explanation behind your answer. Be open to negotiation. Be prepared to negotiate whether you expect something from someone or the other way around. If you feel you need more time to complete something that someone has asked of you, try to negotiate a longer deadline. For example, if you're responsible for ordering a cake for a special occasion honouring a friend, try to negotiate the time frame you have in order to give yourself and the cake maker time to create a quality piece. Promise less than you deliver. When you promise less than you actually give to someone, you set them up with low expectations. When a person has low expectations for an outcome, they're far less likely to be disappointed at the end. If you already have several other priorities to worry about, make that known. This way, the other person can make expectations that are appropriate based on your availability. For example, let's say you're already taking on 3 big projects at work. If a co-worker or a boss asks if you can complete a smaller assignment for them, you can say that you have other bigger projects and you may be able to help, but they shouldn't give you a strict due date. In this case, you could complete the assignment in a timely manner anyway, and the other party won't be disappointed.